Hello, Ryan Dahl here from PraiseCharts Live. And I'll tell you something, I'm always excited when I see churches rallying together. More and more churches are just creating music for their own congregations and then sharing it with the world. And some of the music that's coming out is so amazing. Of course, like in the past, it's been like lots of Hillsong and Elevation and Bethel and things like that. But now there's more great, vibrant worshiping communities coming together. And today we're going to talk to a couple of worship leaders and recording artists from River Valley Worship. Some of you may have heard of their great song, Hope Has a Name. That song has been getting like millions of views in Spotify. And now they got some new singles and a new album coming out on Friday. So I've got Evan and Wes from the team, and we're going to talk about life and worship ministry and sonic, soundscapes that you're trying to create, and just the whole vision and passion behind their worship ministry. I think it will be very interesting. So join me with Evan and Wes right now. Here we go. Evan and Wes, welcome to PraiseCharts Live.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome. Two guys just sitting, chatting with me on their iPhones, so I love it. Are you guys both in your church right now? Just found a closet somewheres?
Pretty much.
We I'm in the office right next to Evan right now.
You are? Okay, so you can kind of hear him. That's good. Yeah. We had a little trouble kind of getting it all connected, but when in doubt, pull out the old iPhone and it works every time. So that's good. So guys, I'm excited to learn all about, the inner workings behind River Valley Worship. You guys have definitely found a place to have a voice in this world, and it's always nice to have a song that kind of breaks through with the Hope Has a Name a few years ago, and now you guys are just continuing to write. And why don't you just tell me a little, let's just introduce each of you individually. Evan, let's just start with you in the middle. Tell me about where you fit into the whole team. Are you a songwriter? Are you a singer? Are you a drummer? Or you play guitar? Just give me the elevator pitch to Evan.
Yeah. So I'm Evan, like you said, and I'm actually the River Valley Worship band manager.
All right.
I'm one of our local worship pastors. I get to, within the band, I play a lot of electric guitar. I also lead worship and get to write songs with some of my best friends. So
isn't that the best? Yeah.
And, it really is. It's a dream come true for me.
Is Wes one of your good friends? Because, we're live here, so you can say he's not if he's not, so.
No, he's, I grew up an only child, and he's the closest thing I have to a brother, so I love him to death.
Seriously? Oh, what an honor. Wes, that's so great.
Yes, sir.
Brothers.
And with, everything that brothers come with, too.
Oh.
Lots of love.
That's right.
Lots of brotherly love.
Yeah.
No, Evan, I love Evan with my whole heart. He's the brother I never had as well. I have 3 older sisters. And, so.
Oh, that's such a great testimony. And isn't that great when you play and worship and lead together with someone that you feel that kind of bond with? It sure does make a difference when you're live on stage together, which I'm assuming sometimes you guys have been on together, and you just know the other person, the subtle cues, where they're going to go, what they're going to, so that must be great. Well, tell me about your role, Wes. What do you play? What do you sing? Do you write? How do you fit into River Valley Worship?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm part of the songwriting team for sure. I oversee worship at our city campus location in downtown Minneapolis. So I'm the worship leader there. And just with River Valley Worship, just writing songs and part of the worship leading team for that. I play guitar, but not anywhere near like Evan does.
Oh, nice.
I can strum on an acoustic all day. And, so that's how I fit into the River Valley Worship crew. Yeah. And you're right. Getting to lead with some of your best friends is so special. We're all leading at different campuses on a weekly basis. So whenever we get to come together and lead at a conference, or we just had River Valley Conference here at home, where we got to lead together. There's special moments, special times. So definitely never take it for granted.
Beautiful. Well, we're looking forward to a kind of an exciting week. I think on Friday, a new album is dropping for River Valley Worship. Is that, I got a picture of it right here. Faith in Our Time. Is that what it looks like? So I don't think anybody has even seen this yet, but that's the brand new. Man, there's a lot going on in that image there. You're going to have to tell me, like, what's all going on there.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a collage of the story of, I think, all of our journeys, as well as we're a part of we're part of a Pentecostal movement called the Assemblies of God as a church, and so there's some heritage in there tied into the Azusa Street revival and stuff that spans back to those moments all the way to what we're believing for. We've seen some amazing movements, revival times happen in the past, and we're believing right here, 2022, God has something fresh. He has a movement for today. So what does that look like for us as not only artists and musicians, but people of God? What does it look like to have faith for our time in the world? God placed us here. He knew that we would be alive for these moments, writing songs, being the salt and light of the world. And for those listening, God placed each and every one of you in your churches and your communities for a reason. So our goal was to write songs that hopefully would provide words to how we're processing what does it look like to be people of faith right here in this day and age, and what is God doing within us that we can maybe articulate in song form that could create anthems for people to sing out day to day, but also on the weekends in their local congregational churches.
Yeah, beautiful. Wes, you got anything else to add? Like, what do you see? What are you excited about with this Faith in Our Time project that's coming out?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Evan hit everything on the head with the album cover and what it's depicting. I think, like we've all experienced the last several years and the cultural climate of the moment and what does it mean to be a Christ follower and a Jesus follower in our day. And we as Jesus followers, we know Jesus is the answer and he's the hope of the world. And so ultimately these songs are going to point people to Jesus, and Jesus is the focus. So I think the whole process of writing the album and being a part of that journey to the final product of the actual songs, it's all speaking to the simple idea of what does it look like to be a Christ follower, to be Jesus focused, Jesus centered in our culture and our day.
Beautiful. I was reading a little bit about River Valley Worship. I went to the website. Let me just show you guys what I found here. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. This is like River Valley Worship right there. So lots of great songs and links and resources if anybody wants to go to rivervalleyworship.org. But in there, it was talking about how, like, the DNA, let's just talk a little about the back-end DNA of your church and specifically the worship ministry being like artful, congregational, spirit-filled, and then even as you're recording, like looking for new sonic landscapes. I'm kind of interested in all of that. So some of it is obviously very spiritual as far as that DNA, and then also like the musical and the production. I think there's people that are interested in how it all comes together. So can we just kind of walk through each of those? Let's just talk about artful, like how, art and worship and music, and how do you guys want to express art in your worship ministry as a church? So starting with Evan, Wes, you're not in there. So what does that mean to you to be artful as a worship ministry?
Yeah, when you look at art subjectively, just the idea of art and why it exists, God is creator God, and when we create art, we're exemplifying a character of God, and that in and of itself, I think, is worship and God honoring. So when we think about writing music for the church, for people to sing theological truths, we want it to be artful. and to reflect that part of who God is. And so not just, we for sure want it to be theologically sound, Christ-centered, but we also want to package that in an artful way that brings honor and glory to the Creator. So that's what I'm passionate about.
Beautiful. What about congregational? This is something where, and Evan, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. It's like not leaving the 1,000 or 2,000 or 100 or 50 people that are in front of you like lost as you're presenting your great art. You know, how is that still something that we can aspire towards? How are you intentional in that way, Evan?
Yeah, it wouldn't make us very good worship pastors if we just left everybody in the dust. So that's definitely a tension that I think our crew, River Valley Worship, is called to live in, making things that are maybe pushing boundaries of what worship music can sound like. I believe every movement, every house that's creating music, they have a natural sound that is natural to them, and just as much as my voice sounds different than your voice, and so on and so forth. Our church has a unique sound to it, and just kind of speaking to that tension of that Wes is saying of writing music that has this. Maybe it's a little bit more edgy than your typical, congregational music. At the same time, we do know our main priority is leading people into the presence of God. And if we're doing that in a way where like the music's too far out there that they can't connect with it, we've missed it. So the tension that we're always living in, it's not a tension that we're like scared to death of. It's a tension that's actually really beautiful. I believe it helps us create some beautiful songs for the church. Is, you know what, first and foremost, our church's value is that we lead people into the presence of God, and we believe when we do that, everything that they need is found within those moments, sitting in his presence, and also equipping them with the reality that the presence doesn't just exist on a Sunday, it goes with them. So if we can write songs that can facilitate moments where people can connect with the Lord, but potentially even inspire them in a new way, because we're pushing sonic landscapes forward of what worship music is allowed to sound like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think sometimes we put things at odds that maybe aren't meant to be at odds, like, oh, worship music should stay in these boxes, right? Well, man, I just I feel inspired as an artist, as somebody who is creative, to say, you know what, like the Lord, God's the ultimate artist, right?
Right.
He's still creating to this day, and I feel like worship music should reflect that. So, all that said, from being creative to leading the family table, so to speak, in worship, from the 15-year-old in my congregation to the 80-year-old, I want to live in the tension of pushing the church forward in worship with the team, with Wesley, with our lead worship pastor, Ryan Williams. We want to create music that reflects the character of God, that he is creative, but his heart is for every single person sitting at that family table of worship to receive.
Yeah, beautiful. Wes and Evan, can we talk a little more? I love this whole concept of sonic landscapes. I mean, I just love that word, even sonic. It's like such a current modern world, and so practical and relevant as churches are thinking. I don't want to, offend generations, or but I want to push forward. And so could we just talk a bit about that? Like, what does that actually sound like? What are some of how could you describe, what does it mean to be pushing the sonic landscapes forward? I mean, is it drums? Is it synth sounds? Is it the way you mix? I don't know. Let's just like work this out a little bit. Wes, do you have any thoughts as to like, what are you hearing when you think about that and River Valley Worship? What is that sound?
For sure. I think, I'll let Evan speak more to this in a second here, but I think at the heart of it, I don't think we're saying, man, we're at the very forefront of what church music is. I think it's like where our church is at.
Yeah.
We want to push the culture forward at River Valley Church. And whatever that next step is, we use the phrase a lot, gentle pressure relentlessly applied.
Wow.
Gentle pressure relentlessly applied. Over time, you're going to see big change rather than making like massive. So like with this album, with whatever we're working on next, I think we're just thinking, okay, let's not redo what we did last time.
Right.
Like Hope Has a Name, that song exists
Yeah.
and it's out in the world.
Yeah.
We don't just want to redo Hope Has a Name. We want
Yeah.
to find that deeper thread, what God's doing next in our community. And so as far as sonic landscapes, I think it can come down to like we can get in the weeds as much as like different synth sounds,
Yeah.
like a Juno, or experimenting a little more with a guitar tone,
Yeah.
and being inspired by other bands
Yeah.
out in the world. That's like, oh man, that chorus vibrato tone, let's bring that into this song where it maybe hasn't lived before in something we've done.
Yeah.
But let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
I just think we just don't want to do exactly what we did last. We want to keep, okay, what's the next story that God's wanting to tell or get across?
Yeah. And
I don't know, Ed, do
especially,
you resonate with that?
yeah, I was just going to say, and then I'll go to you, Evan, but especially when you've had a success, like with Hope Has a Name, and so many people have, taken the song into their churches or listened to it, and there's a temptation of like, how can we redo that? Let's just do more of that. And like this, the spiritual side of how we're bringing this all together, pursuing new sonic landscapes and being artful is like, God has designed us to constantly push forward with new things. And boy, that statement, like what was that? Give me that word again, that gentle.
Yeah,
I love it.
Gentle pressure, relentlessly applied.
Beautiful.
Yeah, our lead worship pastor, Ryan, has been quoting that for a long time. So
I love it.
The underlying thing of our worship department.
Well, Evan, you're probably more in the inner workings of the whole band's dynamic, just in your role. So why don't you flesh this out for a little bit more for us? What are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was born and raised in the church. I had a grandpa who was one of the pastors. So like almost my whole life I've spent in rehearsals for music, youth group, everything you could imagine. I've spent a lot of time around that because my dad played piano from the moment I was born. So I was always around it. And so when you say worship music, I have a lot of context on what that could be. And I've seen worship music kind of evolve throughout the years, like at my church back home, it was piano, vocalist, and then maybe an acoustic guitar, and then they started to introduce drums and some people got upset. And like, I just remember all the stages leading up to, now we're in a stage where churches across the nation are using Ableton, like a computer-based software to help add instruments and add textures to live musicians. And so when I think about like sonic landscapes, Wes just put it so beautifully. Once there was a scripture that comes to mind that talks about how God leads us into the wide open spaces. And I think sometimes as creatives, we feel like we're being led into the closed off, boxy spaces. And I think one thing that I can't emphasize enough is I'm so grateful for our lead pastor. We couldn't do anything without the blessing of our lead pastor, Rob Ketterling here. He has told us, I want you guys to go and create music that reflects the character of God. And he's given us his blessing. And with that, we've really felt the blessing to pursue the wide open spaces of creativity that could potentially, bring new songs, textures, so to speak, into play in the live worship context. So, all of a sudden you're looking up and the drummer is not actually playing acoustical drums, but he's playing electronic drum pad. And sometimes when he's hitting it, you're hearing all sorts of different noises that maybe aren't your typical drum noises. You know what I'm saying? Like that stuff all the way to, you look over at the lead guitarist and he's plucking a couple notes, but they sound like it's a synthesizer, and all of that stuff is really fun because it starts to say to our teams, to our songwriters, and even to our congregation, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything, like, like not only for music, but when you take these songs into your life and into your family, like, let's explore the wide open spaces of what God could be leading us into individually. And hopefully, the art that God is kind of like pushing through us, the funnel of River Valley worship, could provide maybe some inspiration for people to step outside of the box in whatever ways they're feeling like, man, I just kind of want to break outside of this. I want to
Yeah.
see what else is in me.
Yeah.
And so those are just a couple of thoughts that come to mind for me. I'm a big time creative, so anytime I can break outside of the box, I'm going
Yeah.
to take advantage of that, but at the same time, I know the context of congregational worship, and there is that tension to manage of just like, you don't want to be a distraction, but you do want to inspire and lead people into life-changing moments of God's presence.
Mm-hmm. And just envisioning like God as a father who's saying to his kids, like, go out and explore and have fun and try things, like just like I would be as a dad, as I want my kids to go try things and just enjoy all the opportunity. It's a part of the joy and freedom of being his kids, right? That we don't have to be like, oh, this is what worked, this is how we've done it, and we need to maintain, the past. Even with you guys, and just maintaining 2018 when you released Hope Has a Name, it's like that wasn't the way. Now we're into new things, and having that whole mindset is wonderful. And that's really like when I was pushing on all this sonic landscape stuff. I am kind of geeky interested in all of that, but I'm also interested in just encouraging churches, like here together, the three of us, we can encourage churches to be like, hey, explore the 148 sounds on your guitar and don't be afraid of it. Or so what if you hit a drum pad and it plays a non-drummy sound? Like, this is the world we have, and we're free to explore. And you guys are really encouraging us in that way. So I think it's great.
It's so true. And
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and do we try new things and do we get it right every time?
No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely not. I mean, we've tried songs out in church that we try for a couple weeks or a couple months even, and it's just not working.
No.
And so
yeah,
it's not going to be on the album, but that's okay, especially in a culture that our lead pastor has developed. And hey, we're going to open a space a little bit to try things, and if it doesn't work, it's all good.
Yeah,
we learned one way it doesn't work, let's figure out a different way it works.
Yeah, I'm hearing something. I hope maybe a few senior pastors would listen in on this, because it makes a difference when you have a core leader who is creating that culture of go and explore. It's okay if it doesn't always work, but we want to always keep pushing the envelope, just because that's how God made us, to be free and exploring and artful, type of children, if you want to use that kind of imagery. And it comes kind of from the top down, if you want to, speak of it like that. It sounds like you live in a culture like that. So that's really encouraging.
Very, very much. Like, oftentimes, we'll like every once in a while we'll hold like worship roundtables with local worship leaders from around the area. By the way, we're based out of the Twin Cities here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and we've got 9 locations around the Twin Cities. So a really cool thing is we get to do community as River Valley worship leaders together. So like, not everybody gets that all the time. So we're constantly bouncing off ideas, sharpening ourselves with each other's creativity.
Yeah.
But also too, we'll do roundtables with outside worship leaders from other churches, and that's one of the big questions we get is like, how do I get my senior pastor on board with like us writing songs? And just like it, and it can be a hard question to answer at times, because for us it happens so naturally. Like, literally, like, Wes and I stepped into a staff where Pastor Ryan Williams, he had already had those conversations and gotten the blessing from our lead pastor of like, hey, our house is called to make music, and we're going to do it, and I want you to do it, and in fact I'm asking you to do it. And I realize that's not always the passion of every lead pastor, but I would just say to all the worship leaders out there, that are hoping and have that passion and desire that God's put on their heart. I think you have that conversation with your lead pastor and really bring it back to the fact that music and God's presence is the heart of it all. And you want to lead people. And at the end of the day, that music should be to support the ministry that lead pastor is praying for. Mm-hmm. And that's that, like, when you do it from that, I think it's a win-win. And it's not to say it's going to be every church's calling to write unique and original music, but I just think those conversations are so important. Don't just start writing music and then shock your lead pastor on Sunday morning with a brand new song, and So anyway, that's one reason I think we've had the blessing is we've always anytime we've created, I shoot Pastor Rob like our new music like way before anyone else hears it, just to get his blessing and feedback on it, and we've developed some trust there. So that's important. Develop trust with your lead pastor.
Beautiful. Okay, well, guys, we're happy to be coming alongside of you. I think we've have a couple of year relationship with River Valley Worship. We've got your music on PraiseCharts. I just thought I would show a couple of, this is the page we've got for it with, of course, there's Hope Has a Name, which just keeps right on going, which is wonderful. New music, though, is coming out already, a couple of singles, Straight to You and Thank You, Lord. Maybe just give us a little window. Are these two singles that are coming with this album, Faith in Our Time? Is that right, Evan? Is that how it kind of works together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
So talk us through a couple of these songs. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank You, Lord is the first single that we released from this offering, Faith in Our Time. And the song is just... it's one of those songs in the live worship context. It's so scripturally sound, and it's got such straightforward, just inspiring melodies that it's been one that's been just an absolute blessing to our church. And we sing it all the time. And in fact, we just got off of River Valley Conference. It just wrapped up last night. And that song was one of the core songs of our conference. And it was cool to see how quickly people latched onto it. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter if you're battling anxiety, if you're going through a hard time, a season, maybe depression or whatever it is, or you're on the mountaintop and God's provided incredible ways, thankfulness and gratitude will always be a theme that we can sing out as the people of God. And I believe regardless of the valley or the mountain, thank you, Lord, I think is a song that I will continue to sing, And then, our second single, Straight to You, it's a little bit more, it's a fast song. It's got a ton of energy. The team, whenever we play the song, it kind of feels like you're getting, I remember as a kid when I would go to the circus and there was the dude that would get shot out of the cannon. That's what this song feels like. It's it's like a ball of energy. It's really fun. We actually used it as our conference opener a couple days ago. And if you're just looking for a song in these summer months to come, you just want to turn up really loud in your car, it has a faith-filled message, this is your song. So
love it. Love it. And it all kind of points together for Faith in Our Time. A few more songs coming out. That's all on Friday. All the songs are going to be available on PraiseCharts with your chord charts. And hopefully with some of those, what we end up doing is songs that take off in our community. We'll go and write the piano, vocal, choir, sometimes full orchestration, tracks, all that kind of stuff. So that's how we come alongside people just like River Valley Worship. And if any of you listening in are feeling encouraged and you're have a conversation with your senior pastor, get that relationship on board, follow, a vision kind of together. And then I hope you're feeling inspired and even a little freed up to be there's walls we've put up and maybe we need to unlock and explore some new artful landscapes, in the world. And it's just it's like you're a child in a playground and your father has just made so much of a landscape for you to explore. And nowadays, let's just be honest, it's not just instruments made of wood and strings and guts and all that kind of stuff from hundreds of years ago. I mean, we got digital, we got Ableton, we got Logic, we got, your guitar boards. These are all modern tools to explore, right? And just enjoy the freedom and fun. I just feel like, isn't that the nature of our God to have that? And you guys are kind of expressing that together. So I really like that.
Well, hey, we're so thankful for PraiseCharts. Thank you for supporting what God's doing here locally in our church and with River Valley Worship. And it's a blessing just to have people behind us like yourself. So thanks so much.
Right on. All right. Well, thank you very much, Evan and Wes. Love it. This has been a great conversation, very inspiring, practical, and look forward to your new album coming out on Friday. We'll have the links to all these songs in the notes for this, and please share this around social media and so that other people can enjoy this conversation and be inspired by it. But we'll look forward to Friday. Thank you again for joining us at PraiseCharts Live. Join us next time. Talk to you later.